It's hard to review shows like The Acolyte because I was never overawed by Star Wars. The entire franchise is obviously made for children with by-the-book expectations in its storytelling that are appropriate for a child. And I think the adults acting like it was once high art are either cinematic illiterates or very easily impressed. Even the subtext of the OG trilogy is just the bare necessities.
Necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife.
You can go watch All About Eve if you want to see an example of an actual cinematic masterpiece for adults. It's just as fun as Star Wars and full of timeless themes too. So when watching The Acolyte, I could argue that the journeyman direction is sufficient for a child's program. The production design is good enough, if underlit and lusterless, and the writing is as competent as anything you're going to get from a show like NCIS. For this is a Star Wars procedural in the sense that we go on fetch crests and run through a list of tropes in a galaxy far, far away. This is just another way of saying, if you have fun with The Acolyte, then cool. Go in peace, my child. But I personally am not all that impressed with The Acolyte. It's a mediocre experience and was an astonishing waste of money given its reported budget of $180 million. I watched the first 2 episodes simply for this channel, so please hit the like and subscribe button. Daddy needs 1,000 subs. Now our story is set 100 years before the rise of the Empire during a putative time of peace. We open on an assassin, May, who is hunting down 4 Jedis she believes have wronged her and is working for a mysterious Sith Lord. Her sister Osha, a former Jedi Padawan, is roped into the mission to track down and stop May's sanguinary activities as she is initially accused of the crimes as their twins, and then cleared of those same crimes because everyone realizes that they're twins. Other Jedi are included in this galactic piece of shit, but I can't be arsed talking about them because it's a genuine who cares story full of stereotypical characters. The point of the show is simple. The good guys could actually be bad, and the bad guys could actually be good, because this is a story all about moral ambiguity. Now that could actually be an interesting thing to explore, and Star Wars The Clone Wars did just that for anyone who wants to go see a good TV series set in this universe, but it's handled poorly here in The Acolyte. The first criticism on my end is just how mediocre the acting is. The lead character of sorts, Osha, is bland. I can only imagine her casting was to tick a diversity box because there's no way someone would be impressed during an audition by this plank of wood. That goes for the entire cast too, all of whom seem to be phoning in their performances. Even when discussing matters of grave importance, they are still unable to emote beyond a seemingly ponderous and blank facial expression. And for anyone from a diverse background, wouldn't you want a good representative of your people getting jobs instead of hacks, like a Denzel Washington tier actor? Or am I just crazy?
I don't know.
The second element is of course the messaging. Osha has 2 mothers, almost every character is non-white, except for the white people murdered by the black assassin, and we've already been assured that the show is very political thanks to the cast and crew's commentary. I must say it's particularly insidious that white characters are only brought on to be killed off. Another weakness is that each episode is 30-odd minutes long, yet drag intolerably. $22.5 million was spent per episode, and there is so little of it visible on screen or in the writing. The obvious comparison here would be to something like Godzilla -1 or The Creator. You could have made several good movies with strong CGI for the same amount of money spent on the bland and depressing Acolyte. By the 25th minute of episode 1, I was astonishingly bored because I didn't care about any of these robots. I don't think there's a worse piece of feedback than I was waiting for the show to end and couldn't help but count the minutes. Another great weakness is the unending shot-reverse shot sequences during dialogue scenes. I mentioned All About Eve earlier, so go and watch how Mankiewicz blocks dialogue scenes there. Or you could watch De Palma's Snake Eyes. It's hardly De Palma's best work, and yet it still displays a mastery over exposition scenes to ensure they're enthralling, with slow zooms, pans, and blocking. Finally, Personally, and yes, I will reiterate it, while I do think Star Wars is made for children, I also do think there should still be some stakes. We shouldn't walk through each obstacle with the expectation that nothing bad will happen to our lead characters. For instance, a spacecraft falls uncontrollably down to a planet. Our hero Osha is on board with nothing to protect her but a seatbelt. The craft crash lands at astonishing speeds, and a seatbelt, yes, a seatbelt, was sufficient to save her life. A seatbelt isn't even enough to survive an extreme car crash, let alone falling from space. Something like the Lost in Space remake on Netflix had greater stakes than The Acolyte and was still made for children, so there's no excuse for such lazy screenwriting. All up, The Acolyte doesn't need to exist. It's terribly dull, uninspired, and extremely expensive. I doubt even an 8-year-old would find this crap engrossing. Disney should have given the money to charity and done the world a favor. I think it's also safe to say that nepotism has made Leslie Headland the showrunner of this abomination, because I can't imagine anyone with taste or talent producing it. But anyway, I've given The Acolyte more than enough attention. After an hour and 8 minutes of television, I'm left with a very strong sense that it is not going to be a winner even amongst the most generous of new Star Wars fans, if there are even any. The only way this show becomes a hit is if Headland sells her soul for satanic assistance, although maybe she already has.
That was the plan. Not a great plan.